Κυρίες και κύριοι συνάδελφοι, επανερχόμαστε στη διακοπή σας συνεδρίαση.
Dear colleagues, let us resume our work for the other comments, observations on the report. So far, we have Ologratis Koranis from Hungary, Walzouk from Jordan, Iskander from Sudan, and Anin Kolesa from Romania. Is there someone else who would like to take the floor on the report? And Theodore from Uganda. Laokratis Koronis from Hungary. Secretary General, Advisor, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this. We heard Ukraine mentioned in your report, Hungary, excuse me, mentioned in your report, and I must say that from the 13 minorities we have there, 12 of them are represented in the parliament and 4 are Orthodox. I have Marka Simeon just next to me representing the Orthodox of Bulgarian descent. I'm representing the Greek Orthodox, and we have Krapka and the Serbian Ljubomir Aleksov. Our work there aims at doing something in order to have Orthodoxy as a doctrine being heard in Hungary, and with Martha Politeidou in our office, we try to do our best in order to organize the visit of I.A.O. to Budapest. I want to thank you very much, especially Kostas Mygdalis, who did the presentation of the volume Hagia Sophia in the university before an audience of very young people. It was extremely useful because they learned so much about the values of Christianity. That was one thing. The second was that we managed to establish contact with the Speaker of the Hungarian Parliament. The I.A.O. was represented there by the report by Panicos Leonidou, a very good friend. He managed to present the I.A.O. in a very succinct and good way. He spoke about Cyprus, occupation of its territories and so on. But what was also equally important was that everybody understood, realized that we're all equally concerned by the future of Europe. We managed to learn in the parliament that we have common views between the Hungarian parliament and the I.A.O. program. The other thing is that we were able to have a joint liturgy between Christian Orthodox, Catholics and Protestants in the framework of our parliament. That was a first. And a few days after that, thanks to the activity of Martha Politeidou with Shemian Jot from the Prime Minister's office to bring to light the activity of the I.A.O. and there was a request for them to become members of the organization, and he said to me, Laokratis, it's not possible that we will not do this, because we all know here in Hungary that the fortress of Christianity in Europe is Orthodoxy. Many walls may come down, but never that of Orthodoxy. So they're ready to accept us and contribute to our activities. Thank you, Laokratis Koranis, for your decisive contribution jointly with Martha Politidou. And Werzouk now from Jordan. Good morning to all, and many thanks to our colleagues, to the President, and all those present. As Jesus Christ said, I am the road and I am life, and this is the sentence that must guide Christians' daily activities. A Christian that abides by the teachings of Jesus Christ. And our daily course in life is based on the teachings for peace and salvation in order for humanity to be governed by love of the other fellow human beings, and this is where we shall find the foundations of Christian life. And all of this in order for human beings not to be lost in interminable discussions about the roadmap to follow. The roadmap is ready, the roadmap is clear, and it is up to the human beings to follow or not to follow this roadmap. In this framework, the Christian Arab world received the teachings of Jesus Christ. The life of Christians must have Christian references. Christian life must have Christian references. And we have been experiencing for decades efforts to uproot Christian foundations in communities and societies alike in Europe. And we need to study in detail the reasons of the estrangement of the societies, resulting in an impact on people's faith, on the faith of the young. You all spoke about studies in there are 68 million people in Great Britain, and only 60 46% said that they are Christians, 37% said that they are without religion. In order to diagnose a disease, in order to cure a disease, we need to have the right diagnostic. So we need, similarly here, diagnose these reasons for the estrangement of the people from the Christian churches. Is it the foundations of the family that are vacillating, education, demography? Also, many churches allow marriages of same-sex couples, which has led to reactions of many Christians that got away from their churches as a result of these same-sex marriages. And there is also distance taken in certain doctrines from the scriptures, and there can be a political or partisan doctrine that draws people away from the doctrinal values with which we have been brought up. There is atheism and satire sometimes against the scriptures and God. And there is a certain type of anarchy against the Christian heritage, which is the basis, the foundation of the European civilization. Us Jordanian Christians are faced with many obstacles, one of which is the eradication of the Christian Jordanian history, Christian Arab history. Although in the course of this history, many personalities contributed to the restructuring of our common past. We want to be called Jordanian Christians and not Christians of Jordan, because we were born Christian in the blessed land of Jordan. We are deeply rooted in this land for more than 2,000 years. We have been active in all fields, political, social, economic. The Hashemitic kingdom under King Abdallah is a safety valve, because they respect Christian rights, sometimes even before Muslim rights. That is, the rights of the smaller are more honored than the rights of the bigger numbers. And I heard that the next meeting of the International Secretariat may take place in Jordan. There we may have the 8th or 9th more ancient church on the planet. We have cities known from the Roman Empire and very important cities. I want to talk about the city of Kalis, which was the city of poets and writers. There we have the grave of Arapius, an erudite and poet. And it says on the stele, you are a passerby as I was, and you will be as I am now. Enjoy life because you are mortal. I hope that in the final communique text there will be the condemnation and denouncement of the burning of the Holy Quran, because this type of act does not represent the Christians or the I.A.O. We must very clearly denounce the Zionist entity and enemy and aggressive acts against the Patriarchate of Jerusalem. So not just say something against it, but denounce it outright.
Thank you, colleague from Jordan. Thank you for your remarks. Actually, that was soul, from his soul, and we do understand the sensitivity of our colleagues from the Middle East and their concern over the situation of Christians in the birthplace of Christianity, the Middle East. Of course, Jordan is an anchor for the broader region, and Christians can exercise their religious duties unobstructedly. And we wish other countries in the broader region would follow the same example of Jordan. Now, concerning the attacks against the Patriarchate of Jerusalem from extremist circles of Israel lately, we have condemned such attacks repeatedly, and I had the chance as the Secretary General of the I.A.O. to do so in public, and I conveyed our support in my personal meeting with His Beatitude, the Patriarch of Jerusalem, when I visited Jerusalem Saturday before Easter for the Holy Light. And that is a ceremony which, as the colleague from Palestine said, was extremely difficult this year concerning the access of the faithful to the Holy Church of the Resurrection, which evidences the conditions, the circumstances in which Christians live in the broader region. I don't want to say more. I don't want to take more of your time because we need to give time to the participants because as the Tumble said, enjoy life because we are all mortals, and if we finish earlier you will have the chance to enjoy life by taking a swim in the waters of Chalkidiki. Now our colleague Joseph Iskandar from Sudan has the floor. Good morning, Secretary General, advisors, brothers, and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. please allow me not to speak exclusively on the topic of our assembly and the Christian legacy of Orthodox Christian values and the future of Europe, because there are many texts and documents and papers delivered by experts and competent persons and academics who have more experience than me. So to avoid repeating what has been said already, I would just like to ring the alarm because Christianity has shrinked in Europe everywhere, and young people are taking distances from the church and the church concepts. And there is evidence of all this. So wake up before it's too late. I have not attended the meetings of the I.A.O. and the Secretariat for 2 years. I missed 2 years for health, because of my poor health, after so many years of participation in the I.A.O. And now I am surprised to see that many colleagues are absent. Why don't they participate? Because there is war among brothers, Orthodox brothers, same faith people. What is the religion? What is a religion that can launch a war? How can we speak about the future of Europe and peace and human rights if there is a war that has destroyed the infrastructures in many cities? And there are so many refugees fleeing in neighboring countries. And we are grateful to those countries that host those refugees who have stayed homeless. So where is our role? Where are our initiatives for terminating the war and consolidating peace? Where are the United Nations? Where is the Security Council? There are also economic effects of this war in several cities, especially the underdeveloped ones. So let's pray and wish for the termination of this war. There will be no winner in that war. Only destruction, disaster will be left behind. So I hope my colleagues who are absent from this 30th General Assembly, I hope they will be able to attend the 31st General Assembly, and I hope we can embrace them again in the I.A.O. I do know that it is painful for the I.A.O. not to have so many colleagues here. And allow me to point out a few things that have happened in my home country, Sudan. Yesterday, our sister Teresa has talked about Sudan, about human rights. The conflict in Sudan is, in fact, a conflict among generals who wish to grab power, and they claim that they are fighting for democracy. Democracy, as you consider it in your countries, can this democracy be established by weapons, by arms, by even sieging pharmacies or banks, destruction of churches and places of worship? Those people attacked the church, which is the see of the diocese, and they threatened the metropolitan himself, and they asked him to confess as Muslims confess when death is impending. And they also asked a priest, "What are you?" And he replied, "I am a Christian priest." And they said, "What is this Christian that you are talking about? Are you perhaps member of ISIS because you have this long beard? And moreover, in the Khartoum diocese, they threatened the priest that he had to flee within 24 hours, otherwise he would be murdered. Many churches were destroyed and put on fire, and many churches have become the seat of failed fascists. And they do have the support from Tsar, from Central Africa, from Libya, and they are only armed people, not even mercenaries. They are just armed people who came in our country to destroy and kill. And 1.5 million as a result were forced to flee to neighboring countries. And eventually this number will raise even more if the war is continued. And you are talking about refugees in Europe, in the US, in Canada. But where are those people supposed to go? They may find refuge in your countries. Are you ready? Are you prepared for such a flow of refugees? Because some of your countries have supported this war. Why have they supported the rebels and their interests without considering the consequences of this war? Why didn't they think about the refugees? So more refugees will come and settle. Let them get the passports and the citizenship and the rights they deserve in those countries. And we should not exclude also polygamy, because they do have the right to have 4 wives. And if they have 4 kids with each wife, they will multiply, and they will have gravity even in the political parties. And sooner or later, they will govern your countries, they will rule your countries, and they do not have the same faith as us, and they will be ruling your countries. And there we won't be able to talk about the Christian identity. There are mayors already, and prime ministers and governors. Wake up, brothers, before it's too late. Fight, pray, do something to put an end to this war in underdeveloped countries. Offer technology and know-how to those countries. Become allies and partners in investment instead of just supplying weapons. And help for education to be established in those underdeveloped countries. Brothers, I'm not a scientist, I'm not an expert, I'm not a prophet, but I believe that the third World War is impending. Tomorrow, the day after, I don't know, in 2023 or eventually in 2024, I'm not sure. The Second World War started for the well-known reasons, and now many big powers spend millions in nuclear weapons. For example, Pakistan, India. And instead of improving the living standards for their people, they are spending billions in nuclear weapons. Where are the reasonable people? Where are the patriarchs, the bishops, the metropolitans? Where are the teachings of Jesus Christ, who is the symbol of peace and love? So we are asking the people who represent doctrines and religions and do have some power to put an end to these wars, or at least continue praying to the God in heaven for earth, for peace to prevail on earth. Now, concerning Sudan and what happened to Orthodox clergy and lay people is very serious, and I hope the final communique will condemn, not just disapprove, not just criticize what is happening in Sudan, and I hope they condemn the entities and the countries that support mercenaries from Chad, Central Africa, Libya, Nigeria. There are condemnations that have already been launched from the US, the UN, and other bodies. Thank you very much, and apologies if I've taken long. Thank you.
Thank you to the member of our International Secretariat, Mr. Iskander, for his very well documented intervention, which is also a cry of agony for the future of Sudan, given the tragedy that is tearing the country apart and the dangers that Christians are faced with in Sudan. He was also very pragmatic in his presentation, because it is true that if we want to resolve the problem and tackle it at its source, that is where we need to focus on, give people the possibility, enable them to live well in their original countries, and not have them become refugees in order to flee wars. I will now give the floor to Anim Kolesa, our colleague from Romania.
Yes. Thank you. Dear Secretary General, Advisor, Organizer, thank you for your invitation, your warm hospitality, this opportunity. Dear colleagues, on this 30-year anniversary, I think we all agree that Christian values are generally not the pillars of European civilization anymore. They are not part of the public expression and not even part of the institutional dialogue. Generally, these values are excluded and even accused of very bad effects, even for wars. Our children are not educated according to these values, and as a consequence, they lost the taste for finding out the truth, the real life in Christ. Their life and parents' life are not happy at all. The church are very often almost empty, so we are wondering why. One reason are the laws, which are more and more restrictive regarding our values, and we, as legislators, are far away by doing the right efforts. So, to be more clearer, the most important Christian value which is put in the corner is the freedom. But by paradox, the freedom is the core of human rights and tolerance. So, taking more to the point, I'll give you some examples. This means the freedom to act regarding the abortion according to our faith. This means the physician should have the right to refuse to do an abortion. The physician and pro-life association should have the right to inform a woman that what an abortion means, all the negative effects of interrupting a life. But there is a presence on a pressure on legislators to declare a human right, a so-called human right to abortion, and to prohibit, to ban the right for physicians to refuse to do an abortion because of their faith. Another example is the freedom regarding to live without accepting a medical treatment. Almost all the Europe countries failed on this test during the medical crisis. Another example is the freedom to say that the gender equality is not the same with equal chances for women and men but it is mainly a way to impose LGBT ideology and agenda which promote the existence of many sexual identity and so-called right to choose our sexual identity. Another example, the freedom to question the ideology which accuse the human activities as the main or the only reason for natural and cycle process of global warming. In this way, we are destroying our industry. Another example is the freedom to say the truth about the disaster the exposure on display is producing, especially on the young children. Even here, in a 5-star resort, I saw a lot of parents putting their pupils in the front of a display. The parents should be informed about this big mistake. In conclusion, all these and many other we should fight for in a political way. We should create networks of Christian legislators and other advocates in order to put in practice the teaching of our Lord Jesus Christ, to put in practice in a place the good practice from another place, to be part of the same team, a Christian team, in order to have a chance to success. Thus, to resist in this hostile environment, it is very important to share all of us at least our contacts, telephone numbers and email. Each one of us should know each other. This is mainly what I think we should do. Thank you very much.
Και εμείς ευχαριστούμε τον συνάδελφο από τη Ρουμανία.
Thank you, dear colleague from Romania, for having touched upon all these important issues that need to occupy the public dialogue. Yes, the addiction of young children to the screen and so on, and our Patriarch, His Holiness, has also spoken about it. And now Theodore from Uganda, a member of the I.A.O for many, many years and a very, very good colleague.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General, honorable members, and dear participants. I wanted to thank you, Mr. Secretary General, and the Secretariat for the report you've given us this morning. I'm commenting about the report. And for members who remember since the last meeting at Hania in Crete, for you to keep holding the mantle of I.A.O is very important. You've taken us through the various activities, and this is therefore to appreciate and compliment you for keeping the fire burning. Mr. Secretary General, from your report, it's true you made presentations. You represented I.A.O.U in the European Parliament. You visited the Pope. You've entered into concrete steps with Pan-African Parliament and these other sister agencies and organizations. We want to thank you. It's not easy when we separate and go back to our places, but you keep holding the fire so that we have a report. And we want to thank you for the period you've kept us burning. Mr. Secretary General and members, I would like to propose on the way forward 2 items, Mr. Secretary General, about one, the occupation and violence in Palestine. Mr. Secretary General, you may remember in the past resolutions we made as I.A.O, we took strong position on the occupation of the Palestine by Israel. And you may recall that we gave our resolutions and we strongly stand by those resolutions we made. However, even now, we cannot give up on Palestine. Palestine must stay around. And you may have witnessed the recent developments which are very worrisome in Palestine. It is a call that Palestine remains on the agenda of the I.A.O. It is a sister country We have Orthodox members. We can't abandon them. We have to keep them with us, and we make our humble effort. Mr. Secretary General, the second point I would like to make is on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Yesterday, a member proposed that we make our intervention as I.A.O. In our own way, let's present a branch of olives to our two sister countries. But let us do something, because it is totally unforgivable, whichever way the war ends, if we did nothing. Whichever outcome the war ends, Orthodoxy shall remain. We could even be ignored, but at least let us retain a moral high ground in the aftermath of the war. In Africa, we have a saying that when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffer. Now, when the countries are fighting, it is the faithfuls, the law of the society that bears the brunt of the war. And these are Orthodox Christians. So I would propose that we come up with a position. I want to inform you, Mr. Secretary General, that in the Parliament of Uganda, I raised on a matter of public importance to request government and the President to use his leverage in the African Union, in the Pan-African Parliament, to make a voice following the destruction of our churches and monasteries and the destruction of the people. So in the same way, you all recall that African presidents made their tour, made their presence in Ukraine and Russia. Now, whether their position was accepted or not, but at least a position was taken. Even us here, for us to keep quiet, what shall happen tomorrow when the war ends? How shall we face our brothers that were bystanders? The rest of the community, the international community, can be bystanders, but we cannot run away. We are deliberately touched. So it's important that in our humble way, a position is taken by this assembly. We make a resolution to the end, and I think their history will judge us to have been on the right side of history. Mr. President, I want to thank you for promoting the Orthodox heritage. It is only here that we can stand and we can say we are Orthodox members. I want to thank you, and may God help us in this difficult situation. I thank you.
Θέλω να ευχαριστήσω και εγώ.
I would like to thank our good colleague, Theodore Sekikubo. Thank you for your kind words concerning the work performed in the I.A.O. We do try to work consciously, and I believe that every time we are on the right side of history. And I think that we always take a position very clearly on all matters that have to do with the persecutions against the Christians in the Middle East. We have repeatedly condemned very clearly and explicitly the invasion and occupation in Palestine. And in the drafted declaration that we have here, there is an explicit condemnation that cannot be misinterpreted. The invasion and the occupation are condemned both in Cyprus and in Palestine. And we also condemn what is happening in Sudan. We make an appeal for peace. We condemn the Russian invasion in Ukraine. I think our wording is very, very clear. And this is how we should go on as much as possible, irrespective of whether our voice is heard. Each time we want to make sure that we raise a loud voice, a clear voice, both in the European organs but also on the international fora. And now